You're listening to Small Business Talk with Jerry. Sit in on great conversations with entrepreneurs who risk everything chasing the American dream.
Hey everybody, we are back with Small Business Talk. Today we have Keenan Kolstad here. We want to introduce him. We did introduce Craig last go around. So Craig and Keenan, and we have Daniel's also going to be helping out, so we'll meet him here at some point. He won't know when, but it'll come. But Keenan, how you doing?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Yeah, everything's kind of a spur of the moment. We're just kind of putting things together, so I'm excited to be here and get the intro rocking. And I guess we get to talk a little bit about the podcast too, let everybody know what it's going to be all about. And
yeah, how boring we are. I mean, it's Saturday night, and I text him a couple hours ago and went, hey, I got nothing going on. If you want to come over and do the intro, and I'm like, then I realized, yeah, this is coming from an old guy that has nothing going on a Saturday night, so this probably isn't going to work. And you had nothing going on
I was just splitting wood. Yeah, I got to make dinner later tonight, but yeah, I didn't have any plans, so this is perfect, actually, because I'm really excited for this. I mean, the first video that we did, or the one with Craig,
yep,
I watched that, and the feedback that you got on that is awesome. The content, everything is really cool. Again, this is all pretty new to us, so
yeah, so I expect this to be terrible, cool. And it's been not terrible. So this has been awesome.
I mean, you sent, I don't know what, 5-6 messages this morning,
yep,
and it just like kickstarted me. It was like, I got to get that intro video going.
Yeah. I mean, it's just,
it's so cool.
Yeah, the messages kept coming in my way too, and I'm reading them, and I thought, I got to share this with you guys. I gave it, Craig's in Wisconsin this weekend. I think it's his son's birthday, if I'm not mistaken. But so I sent him to him, and he's like, "That's all right. This is cool." And he could tell just the enthusiasm going on when we were talking. So it's pretty cool. I had the only real negative comments we had, which really weren't negative, was just that the hot mic was one of them from a friend of mine, but was on Craig's end, which I had the mic set. You and I were playing with this thing the last time around. Craig came in, and I never did a sound check. So again, back to being a newbie. So I had your settings on Craig, and he's got a much more booming voice than you do. So I ended up with that. But yeah, so we'll know better now. We've got. I took a photo of your settings, and then we'll do the same thing. We'll reset it next time with Craig. Monday we have Diane Gray, Michelle Moe, and Danielle Schmidt coming. So we're going to have kind of a ladies' day, all three local Stewartville business owners.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yep.
It's going to take a little bit, I think, to get the mics ready, just that side of it, but I think that'll go well. Now I kind of a little better idea what I'm doing. So
I just see a bunch of knobs over there, so it's a little intimidating, but I think
it is. But
practice. I
think we only really have to touch one or two of them.
We're off to a good start, I think.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been. I mean, we had, without releasing, it's still unlisted, and it's a video. We don't have it set up on. I opened a Spotify account today, so we'll get it on Spotify. Spotify bought out Anchor. We were going to put on Anchor being a website that'll send it out to multiple venues, and now Spotify owns that. So once we get this figured out, you were messing with the video today, the logo and the audio. So
that was fun, and that was just like one of those little projects I wanted to do. Jay was nice enough to put together the animated logo, which is super cool. And then the back of my head is like, how in the heck do we add audio?
Yeah.
And I started messing with it, get everything rocking, and I tinkered with it for a while. And like I was telling you, I wanted to make sure that this animation plays with the music.
Right.
That's how much time I spent doing that.
Yeah.
Maybe a good hour and a half, just trying to learn the system and everything. Well, then it's 2023. We have AI. How long do you think I had that second animation? And it was literally 5 seconds.
Really?
But it was nice that I understood, and that's a big thing for me when it comes to business. Or when I first initially got into business, I have a background in retail and construction.
Tell us a little bit about you. So let's start there. Let's start there. Tell us about you. How old are you, Keenan?
I'm 33. Yep, actually just turned 33. Graduated in 2009, right here in Stewartville.
Ask that Monday.
Why is that?
Well, because it'll be three ladies.
Oh yeah. Don't do that.
I'm not a big.
Don't do that. We don't need
violence. No.
They're
okay.
Good.
So 33.
Good. Yep. And graduated in 2009 right here in Stewartville. Farm kid, I was raised on hard work and, stuff like that. So I went from, working in retail. I worked at Fairway. I worked at Fleet Farm. We were just talking about Fleet Farm.
Yes, about Fleet Farm.
A lot of those, big box stores and whatnot. So that's kind of how I got more human interaction, we'll say. That's
Sure.
kind of how I got some of the customer service skills. You know, I was raised to be polite and
Right.
all that good stuff, but I was real shy, quiet. You know, I didn't. I mean,
No.
it's surprising,
No,
Jerry.
no,
It's
no,
surprising.
That's not true.
But anyways, I ended up getting wrapped up in the tower industry, so I went to construction.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. You were those crazy guys climbing towers.
Yeah.
No,
And
thank
it was
you.
just and I actually had a huge fear of heights. You know, when I was a kid and we went to like Valley Fair and whatnot, I was the lame one. My sisters hated it because I wouldn't go on roller coasters. You know, I do like bumper cars and stuff like that, but I hated heights. But
And then you're climbing towers.
Yeah,
How high did you go?
biggest tower I was on was 480 feet.
480 feet.
Yeah.
So what is that, like a 20-story? That's more than a 20-story
Yeah,
building.
it'd be about like that.
What?
Yeah. I think an average story is what, 10, 12 feet? So,
Yeah, I would guess. So,
yeah.
so you're not talking about a 20-story. You're talking
Or
about like a
like
40,
40,
like
yeah.
a 40-story
It
building.
gets up there.
Jeez.
But once you get over 50 feet, it's kind of all the same. Beautiful. It's a beautiful view. Once you get, past the
Yeah.
tree line typically 50, 60 feet, so you get up
Yeah.
above there and you can just, it's gorgeous. And of course we had proper training and, nice equipment. And I mean, that's mind over matter at that point, because once you realize that you're
suppose.
always tied off and made good money, it was
I'm
a lot
sure.
of hours,
I'm
always
sure.
traveling, with consistent work. If you're working for Verizon or AT&T or anything like that, always work. So
Sure.
that was a big reason why I got into that field. And I started as a greenhorn, new guy, didn't have a clue what the heck was going on. I just was told to climb up there and tape stuff, or hand your top hand, tools and stuff like that.
Yep.
And then eventually, as time progressed and I got to know things, I moved up to the top hand position, and then I got into the foreman position, and it was at that point then I was training all the new guys.
Sure.
So
When you're
it's the big cycle.
Yep.
So
Right. Well, I mean, we talk about small business. That's how that works too. I mean, you've got to. The hard part is, a lot of your small business owners, I mean, they don't realize how green they are. Because they came from the corporate world, and it's like, well, I can do it there. I can, or, I have an auto shop. So, you can be a great mechanic, best in town, but doesn't mean you can run a business, And then same thing, the guy that can run the business, if he can't turn a wrench, well, now what? Because now you're gonna, in the beginnings stages, you're gonna have a guy that can turn a wrench, that can really make some money. He's good at it. He's gonna take care of things, but he's got that salesman. He's got that business. The guy that's gonna run the business, which in the beginning is kind of dead weight. I mean, because you're not, the guy up front's not producing anything, and you're not busy enough when you first get started. So there's some growing pains there. It took a little time to get going, but you see that a lot. That's where a lot of failure comes from. Is a guy's really good at his trade, and then thinks, well, I can do this better than the boss. And in a lot of cases, I mean, that's where the new businesses come from. But also, sometimes after you do that, you start realizing why the boss was such a dick sometimes.
it's a stress factor. I mean, there's
Right.
a lot of moving parts to running a business, and it can be very intimidating. I always give guys credit that, if they have the experience, let's stick with the mechanic.
Yep.
I know a guy that worked for a company for a long time, and he finally started his own shop, and, it's really cool to see people that have that drive, and that it's one thing to think that you can do it. It's another thing when you actually implement and do it.
Right.
And that's really cool to see. And it's something new every day.
Yeah.
And when I started my gig, it was, I knew I could do it.
Yep.
But there was so much that I learned. I learned
Yeah.
the hard way, I learned the hard way, lots of mistakes. I didn't go to college. Everybody said that maybe if you went to school for business management or something like that. I paid for college in a different way.
Right. And
Time and money was spent elsewhere,
Yeah.
but
well, and there's only so, I mean, and I'm not one to tell you that going to college is a bad idea. That's not the point at all. But you only get so much out of it. I mean, you're going to spend years in college, 3-4 years in college to get. You can figure that stuff out in 5 or 6 months on the job. I mean, in a lot of cases. Now, when you're in college, they don't teach you how to negotiate deals, right? I mean, unless you're going to get into like a psychology major, but once you have if you have a psychology major, you're probably not starting your own business unless it's to do, unless you're going to be a psychologist. You're going to have your own, your own practice. I mean, right? That's it. But you need to understand people and to talk to people. People want to feel important, and that's how you should make them feel. If you're going to be a business owner, when someone's in front of you, you don't want to be on the phone talking to your girlfriend or talking to your best buddy about what we're going to do on football. What are we snacking at halftime? When you've got a customer in front of you. Those and that sounds like pretty basic things, but how many times have you experienced that going into a store, going somewhere, and you're standing there waiting to be helped, and they're just talking about personal trash.
Yeah.
It's like, we all have personal trash. We all want to talk about it, but not when someone's waiting on you. You're getting paid to be there. Act like this. Act like that person in front of you is important. I mean, that's what they want. That's what we all want.
You kind of have to have like a servant's attitude too, and some people can't put that aside. You know. But.
Yep. We were just talking about that. I had quite an experience. And it's like, how do you justify? If those folks would have been running their own business, they'd be out of business. I mean, there's just no way. But they work for a big company like Fleet Farm, where their paycheck's going to come, and if a guy like me decides to not shop there anymore, or whatever, they're not going to close over that.
Already built. Yeah. People are still going to come.
People are still going to come, right? It's whatever you do, and where you shop, and I mean, a lot of these retail places, they're taking a beating from the online stores anyway. I mean, and then we can blame COVID, and we've got so many excuses, And if you're on the right side, you're going to blame the current government. If you're on the left side, you're going to blame the last government and tell them that we're still feeling the effects. And we've all got excuses.
It's always a blame game. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. It's like, you can have the same exact conversation with two people, and one tells us that the problem is from 4 years ago, that it was so terrible 3 years ago that it's still that bad. And then you got other folks who are like, well, it's terrible. It started when the new administration came in, so it's all politics. And it's like, okay, we want to have that argument. We can sit here and talk for days.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you and I, small business owners, what this chat, what this episode, what this podcast is all about, we can run for office, but we're not going to make a dent. I mean, and I don't want to have that hopeless attitude, right? But what are you going to do about it? What am I going to do about it? It's a daunting task. We have our vote, and then now you've got, I would say, probably pretty close to half the country thinks, well, my vote didn't matter last go around.
Yeah.
Right? So and again, whether that's how you feel or that's not how you feel, perception's a reality. If that's what you think is going on, that's what's going on in your head. That's how it matters. So what did you do after the towers?
After towers, actually, well, with the tower industry, it's kind of a revolving door, in a sense. I worked for two different companies. The second company I worked for, actually, two different occasions. A lot of hours, a lot of traveling. Guys will quit and they want to stay home. They want to be closer to family and stuff like that. But it's just so hard to beat the money, you know. And the other perks, you always have nice equipment, and you have, the company I worked for, Meridian Blue, that was a great company to work for. They're awesome people.
But you have to travel because, there's only so many towers here.
Yep.
And they only need so much maintenance or work or whatever you're doing up there.
And kind of been all over the Midwest, okay. Been Dakotas, Nebraska, parts of Ohio, obviously Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Iowa, sure. And every little small town you can think of,
Yeah, I bet.
It was a fun experience. Then I got into car sales. I worked at up in Zimbrota for a little while.
Okay.
Again, that was another good experience. It was a love-hate thing for sure.
Yeah.
Auto sales is tough for me, anyways, because it's not. Sometimes it feels very transactional, but there's a lot more to it. That's the second biggest purchase that people are going to make in their life. Tip usually.
Right.
So there's a lot of emotion behind it. If you're gonna sign off on $30,000, $40,000, $50,000, it's
right.
People want to take their time, and they want to think about it, and they want to do their research, and they have every right to. Luckily, we have the power of the internet too, where they can kind of shop around. It was tough for me, I'll say, because when it came down, like you were talking about with negotiation and stuff, it's like I'm dealing with somebody else's money,
right?
And then I'm being pressed by management to get a signature,
yep.
Which yes, close the deal, absolutely.
Yep.
But it's like two sides of that fence. If I was in their shoes or if I was in their shoes, I'm stuck in one shoe of each, I guess, right?
Well, it is. I worked at Adamson Motors in Rochester as car sales for almost 4 years, from 98, end of 98, to 2001, 2, somewhere in there. And I went from there, and that was a hard part. It's all about listening, really. And I mean, what took me forever to figure out, and I felt so dumb when the light bulb clicked, because we're learning product knowledge, right? Adamson Motors at that time it was Jeep, Hyundai, Chrysler, Dodge, and Lincoln Mercury. Mercury was still a brand yet then. And so we're taking these tests, and we're on these satellite imagery things that these like a podcast basically, but it's all training, and you're taking tests, and you're trying to score as high as you can because the dealership gets paid better if you do better, and there's all this red tape to it, and they really have you focus on learn the product, because we sell Mercury Sables, and next door they sell Ford Tauruses, and we sell Chrysler 300s, and next door they sell they went to the Ford 500 after the Taurus, but you got to compete against the Chevy Impala, and we've got the Hyundais, and we got to worry about the Honda Accords and the Toyota Camrys and all this, and like I say, it took me forever. It was probably 4 or 5 months in when you realize the Toyota Camry, the Honda Accord, the Chevy Impala, the guys next door at the Ford dealership, they're not your competition. The customer's at your place. They're not over there. They can't be in two places at once. They're at your place. My competition is the other 17 salesmen that work for the same company I do that couldn't give two shits if I make a paycheck or not. Mm-hmm. That's the deal. Yep. And you make friends with like a handful of them, and the rest of them are nice to you, but at the end of the day, I remember sitting in a cubicle one time talking with another salesman who was a friend of mine. Customer walks in. There's a gal that worked there. She's standing right next to me, but doesn't know it because I'm sitting down and there's just a cubicle, a 4 or 5 foot tall cubicle. Customer walks in, says, "Yeah, come in to talk to. I talked to Jerry on the phone, and come in. He's got a car set us there. Wants to show me a car." And she's like, and I've been there for like 5 or 6 months at this point, and we literally were side by side for most of it. And she's like, Jerry who? I'm the only Jerry that worked there. There's 19 salesmen. I was the only Jerry that worked there. Jerry, who? And Eric, who I was talking with, he's kicking me, in his cubicle going, "Stand up, show him." I'm like, let's see where this goes. If I sell this car, I don't sell this car. It's not like I'm not going to eat, right? And if I sell the car, it's not like I'm going to go buy a new car over it, right? It's not going to change my style of living. I'd like to sell a car rather than not, but let's see where this goes. And he didn't know my last name. She goes, "Well, let me see if I can help you out." And so as soon as she said that, that's like, okay, then it's over. So then I stood up and I was like, did I hear my name? And then I got the the big shocked and I'm thinking from her, she's just like, whatever, and just turned around and walked away. Didn't say, just said, "Yep, yeah, that's that Jerry. Okay, yeah, that one, the only one that works here. Thanks, appreciate that."
We call that a skate, right?
Yeah, yep, that's a skate. Yep. That's it. But it's like it was right there when I get done with that customer, and then Eric is just blowing up my phone. As I'm talking to this customer, he's texting me going, "That SOB, ... He's just going crazy, and I'm like, that's when it hit me. It's like I need to know my product, right, to be good at your job, but I'm not competing against the Chevy Impalas, and I'm competing against these guys that are working right next to me.
That's the Shark Tank. Yeah.
It is. It's I made a lot of friends there, and I've got friends that I'm still friends with to this day. But then there's people that you wouldn't piss off if they're on fire. That you worked side by side with, and I thought they were your friend, and I was just naive, and that's all it was. And then that it gives you a rough look on things too, because then all of a sudden you maybe go down the wrong rabbit hole a little bit too, going. But I couldn't bring myself to do that. I could never steal somebody's customer. It just wasn't. And then
just didn't feel right.
No, it doesn't.
Yep.
No. And that was when I really finally made that decision. It's like, I just can't do that. So this isn't the job for me. Now you look at a lot of dealerships. It's a one price dealership. It's not huge commission sales. When I was there, if you didn't sell, you didn't eat. I mean, it was harsh. I mean, you had a big whiteboard on the wall, and every Friday morning you'd go in and the guy who sold the most cars last month was first on the board. The guy who sold last was bottom on the board. If you muddled around that bottom few spots more than 3 or 4 months, you just didn't come to work one day. I mean, it's like, we don't need you, Yep. And you weren't making any money anyway, so why stay? But yeah, that was harsh. You'd literally get bonuses, paychecks. They would the top couple, they'd throw the numbers right out there because it's like, hey, look what he did this month, just as motivation. It's like, Okay. You know, heard him a couple times rattle off the paychecks of the bottom guy too, and it's like, okay, that's not exactly positive reinforcement, but it's motivation.
It is, yeah, yep. That's the nice thing about car sales, though, too, is, you know, the money was good. Everybody loves money, right? Don't get me wrong. Everybody likes money. You get a little extra cash, you start getting some of the big checks, you know, you have a good month and everything, but the second you hit first of the next month, doesn't matter.
Yep.
You start over, doing it again.
Yep.
You know? But, and I guess that's kind of a lot like business, too.
Yep.
When you first start your business, you have a lot of cash coming in, a lot of cash going out, especially if you're reinvesting, buying equipment, and stuff like that, and that can be very, very scary. But
it is, especially when you get a dry month or two, or you string 3 together, and you're used to that big revenue moving, that shuffle, and all of a sudden the shuffle's only gone one direction, you know? And let's be honest, so many people start a business underfunded, you know? We have someone from small town right down the road from us. He's going to do a podcast here at some point. I'll get him in here. We'll get him in here. He says he's interested, but I think we'll get him. We'll get him in here. He's a good guy, and he was telling me a story about went to the bank, wanted to move from an old building to a newer building, and kind of figured out what it was going to cost him to renovate and be able to move over there. So went to the bank, and he said, you know, I need about this much, and they're like, well, it's going to cost you more than that to renovate and move. Yeah, but I've got money and I've got cash flow because we're open. You know, we've got revenue. And I kind of laughed. He goes, what are you laughing about? I'm like, dude, when the bank's offering you money, you take it. Because I'll tell you what, I said, what's going to happen? And he goes, and he kind of laughs. He's playing dumb. He's like, why do you say that? I was like, he wanted to know what my opinion was, you know, or if I knew what I was talking about. And I said, well, my experience, if you underfund yourself, by the time you figure out you're underfunded, you need more money, banks are closed, right? When they know you need it, you are not getting that money. When they see that you're struggling without it, they're not going to throw you a lifeline. Banks want to see you on the hill, and they want to give you some gravy. They don't want to help you. I mean, this is not how, I don't want to sound so pessimistic, but that's how the world works. And I said, so, you know, and I told him, I said, so what happens if you string a few bad months together, or in the process, people don't think you're open, whatever the case is, you know, they don't want to deal with the construction, the hassle, whatever it is. And I said, all of a sudden, you know, the business drops, and now that revenue's down. Or how many projects have you ever went into and you went over budget? Like all of them?
It always does.
Right.
It always does.
There's always something that just pops up, especially when you're dealing with an old new building to you, right? And small town, you know, there was plumbing issues, there was all kinds of stuff. And he goes, you know, that's exactly what happened to me. He said, all of a sudden, we strung a few bad months together, and he said, almost bankrupted me, you know, because then I went to the bank going, hey, I do need that last 100,000 or 150. I don't remember what the number was, but whatever it is. He goes, I do need that last X amount. And they're like, yeah, you know, when you need it, it's kind of hard to give it to you. You know, we need to see you we need that revenue stream. We need to see you being, you know, healthy. That business needs to be healthy. It's like, well, it will be as soon as we're done. Well, get it finished then and come see us. Well, that's what we need the money for, you know.
Kind of hopes and dreams at that point, right? You know, what they say is you got to plan for the, or hope for the best, plan for the worst. Right?
That's right. And you know, so if you borrow too much money, you don't have to spend it, and you're going to pay some interest on it. But we pay insurance every day. We pay crazy money for insurance every day. That's all that little bit of interest is. It's insurance to not go broke. Because, I mean, he could have lost everything on that. You know, fortunately he didn't, and he's doing very well today. And like I said, he's a great guy, and he's got a great business. And I'm excited to get him on here. I think he'll give us some good insight too. But yeah, that's a story where Todd, he's just kind of laughs. He goes, "That's exactly what happened." I'm like, yeah, you got to take it, because I'll tell you, when you need it, they're not your friend.
If you're broke,
when you're broke, they're not helping you. They're not bailing you out.
We have proof now. This is exactly what happened with your money. Why would we give you?
Right.
Just as much more.
Right.
But yeah, that's going to be a big thing about this podcast too, is as we get a variety of different guests and whatnot, we all have a different experience.
Yep.
A lot of similarities. You know, when I got into business, I'm very stubborn and controlling, right? So a part of that too is I want to learn everything.
Yeah.
When it comes to business, for me, I wanted to know everything front to back.
Yep.
You know, which is important to do.
Right.
There's a lot of ways I could have fast tracked this thing. If I were to start over today, oh gosh, I could definitely fast track for
Absolutely.
sure.
But you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
I mean,
didn't have a clue. I
I
spent
tell you,
hours.
I'm gonna give a
hours
shout
on
out to
Google and calling friends and searching, and I mean just simple stuff like getting your license and stuff like that.
Right.
And it all seems very complicated, but you know how to eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time.
One bite at a time.
Make a list, jot things down. I know how to do this. I need to figure this out. Let's start with this. This is easy.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
and just go from there.
Yeah, I mean, you rank things from ease and timeliness
Yep.
to importance. You know, if it's important and hard, well, that's got to get done. But if it's hard and it's not top tier, it's like I can do this a lot faster. I can do these 3 things in the time I can do that one. Yeah, we'll do these 3 things. You know, I mean, and mentally, it's a good thing. It's a good exercise too because it gives you confidence, right? I mean, every one of us, when you do something well, we all, I don't care if you're 10 years old or you're 100 years old, you love to hear somebody go, "Good job, good." You know, that really turned out good. Good for you. I mean, this morning my phone was blowing up with positive comments on our first episode, and I mean, you know, I'm 52 years old, and I felt like a kid. I was like, "This is great." You know, it's like, yeah, you know, it's like I had new shoes on, waiting for somebody to ask me to run down the street.
Yeah.
Which we don't do that now, but when I was younger, I'm saying when I was a kid, but yeah, I mean, it's we all want that positive reinforcement, and so even if it's just from within, like I say, let's just get something done. If you can, when you've got that list, when you can start crossing things off that list, that is a great feeling.
Yep.
And I'm going to give a shout out to Rick Pagel. He's a friend of mine, known him for 100 years, it feels like. But I worked for him for a summer when I owned my pool hall. Summers were brutal, you know, slow. I mean, the employees outnumbered I was the only employee in the summer most of the time, and we'd outnumber the customers most of the day. So it was terrible. But I'd go, we'd open later in the afternoon. We wouldn't open till like 4 or 5, just get that evening traffic, because that's the only time people were there. So during the day, I'd get up, crack of dawn, and go with Pagel, and he'd put up pole buildings. So we were always working on farms and putting up pole sheds and whatnot, which was not work I was used to. I mean, I've always been inside guy, you know. And so I learned a lot. I mean, I learned a lot those 2 summers. But he used to say something that just drove me crazy. It was the dumbest thing I ever heard. He's like, "You can't know what you don't know." He'd always tell me that. Chewing on his toothpick, telling me you can't know what you don't know. And I thought, that is the dumbest thing ever. And as you get going, you're like, you know, that's probably some of the wisest words, honestly. You know, at the time, it's like when you're a kid and your dad says something, you're like, that's the dumbest thing ever. And who do you quote the most as an adult? As a guy?
Just like my father.
Yeah, your dad. You know,
Yep.
if you're a guy, you quote your dad. That's how it is. And you start realizing all those dumb things he said were just dumb because you didn't get it. You know, you were dumb. I mean, that's just how it was. And yeah, the whole "you can't know what you don't know." I say that so many times now, and I get the same stupid look from the young guys that I gave Rick back in the day, going, "That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard."
It's really funny too, because I was thinking about that earlier. You know, we've all been that kid, you know, holding the flashlight for dad.
Yep.
You know, getting yelled at.
Absolutely.
My dad's biggest line was, "Look at the situation and figure it out." You know, and it took me a while for that. You know, I learned a lot based off that phrase, and I've heard that thousands of times. You know, but I learned how to work on vehicles and, you know, do some, you know, carpentry work and electrical and you name it, all the farm stuff. You know.
Yep.
Poor farmers, you know, we fixed everything. Everything
Yep.
got fixed. We didn't want to pay anybody for it, and it kind of became a joke. You know, when I got into those positions where I was training new guys, I said, "Look at the situation and figure it out."
Yep.
Wow, I always said, "Fucking figure it out." That was our thing. You know, me and like a foreman or whatever would be going back and forth. Just figure it out. Just figure it out. But that's all I got to do. You got a question. None of us knew the answer. Just figure it out. Make it work.
Yep.
But
well, that's my dad used to say, he'd work through it or think through it. He said, because he said, as you get older, you're going to have to do more thinking and less working.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But he said, when you're younger,
he said,
yep. And he said, when you're younger, you work your way through it. And he said, and you're gonna teach yourself. You're gonna learn. But he said, you got to be able to solve it both ways. There's things you got to work through, and there's things you got to think through. And again, when you're a kid, it's like think through it. Thinking doesn't help. I mean, just you're just like, I'm dumb. I'm just thinking through it.
I don't even know what I'm looking at.
Yeah, I don't even know what I'm doing. I just but work, but just get in there and sweat a little bit and get it done. But he said so many things growing up that you just kind of went, that makes no sense. And then later on, I tell you, I remember this is a story. I mean, it has nothing to do with business, but my oldest, when he was God, I don't know, probably 4 or 5. But he was talking back. I mean, he had a mouth like mine, and I know where he got it, so I can't, you couldn't really get mad at him. But I remember talking to him the one time, and he's lipping me, and why, a million whys. And finally, I just got terrible. And I point my finger at him. I said, "'Cause I said so." And I just stopped. I was like, "I'm my dad. Sweet Jesus, I need a minute. Just go play. I need to go sit down. I need to figure out what the hell just happened." I'm like, but I didn't even finish. I'm like, "Just because I said so." And it's like, that was the one thing growing up that my mom would say, actually, more so than my dad. Because I really never talked back to my dad. Mom, different story. But when she'd say, "'Cause I said so." And I thought, that is the worst thing to say to a child. But at some point, you're just like, the reason is I'm in charge. You're not, because I said so, And to relate that to business, you'll have supervisors, you'll have owners that will tell you that. I mean, they will be, "Do this." It's like, "Why are we doing it?" "Because I said so."
My way or the highway.
My way or the highway.
That's one thing that drove me freaking nuts.
Yep.
And I could ask a question just out of curiosity, or maybe my brain's processing this a little bit different, or maybe I don't quite understand what you're explaining.
Yep.
But if I give you an idea and you totally throw it in the trash, it's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on, man. I've done this enough times where I'm going to try it this way a little bit, maybe take a little bit of your process. The idea is to make it more efficient and faster,
right.
And what easier, right?
Well, an extra set of eyes never hurts.
Yeah,
it just doesn't. But when you have a supervisor or an owner, a boss, whatever, that's got that my way or the highway, the "'cause I said so." Boy, if for all you guys out there that have done that to someone, quit it.
Take a step back.
Yeah, take a step
reset.
back.
Yep.
And you might be the smartest guy in the room, but you might not be. And if you really want help from your employees and you want their respect, demanding something from them that you're not doing, and then just telling them do it, period. Give them a little explanation. If you have an employee that's genuinely wanting to know why you're doing it that way, you can't assume that they think they're smarter than you and they would just want to do it, or they're lazy or whatever. Give them the explanation. Take the time. If it's not a situation where you have the time, come back to it. But verbalize that. It's like, I'll explain this later on. It's crunch time. We need to shift. We need second gear. This isn't the time to sit here and chat about it. We're busy. Let's get going. That's fine. But come back to it and explain it to them. Give them an opportunity to grow. And because there's a lot of times where the new guys always got great ideas, right? Until you implement them, and then you're like, "Oh, that's why they do it that way."
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
But sometimes the old guys are like, "There's a lot of new technology today. The AI that you did." It's like, I mean, I hear it all the time. I hear
I did too. Yeah.
But I've never used it. I'm not gonna lie. So I had no idea. But maybe I'll have to give that a shot.
I did it just out of flat out curiosity, because again, that's how that all started. I wanted to know how I could add audio to that animation for your logo.
Yep.
And I spent like an hour and a half, and then boom, 5 seconds later, it's like, wow, AI is really cool. That's a very powerful tool.
Sure.
We can throw away all these old school ways of doing things, and that's it.
There.
Done. That was it. Sent it to you, and I was like, boom, this is cool.
Well, yeah, the first one, when you sent it, and then the second one came right after it, so I'm like, well, you're a genius. Yeah. I mean, I sent that to you. I was like, you're a genius. It's like, you did that in like 2 minutes. I mean,
I felt stupid. It's like, because I seen the AI thing right away, and I was like, I'm not going to monkey with that stuff. That's a whole nother wormhole. Let's get to the basics. Let's do it the old school way.
Yeah.
The old school way is always the right way, right? Let's learn something. Let's get everything. I'm glad I did it. That's just the kind of person I am, just so I kind of understand how that's going. But it's so much faster just to... I uploaded 2 things and hit a button, and it was good to go. Exactly how I would have done it and spent, maybe I could have got that one done in 10 minutes, 15 minutes,
Sure.
But...
Well, and when we're done with this, we're going to edit this one before we message anybody, and get the opinions and kind of give it to the, I'm going to call it our focus group. I don't know if we can call it a focus group. I think that last week's has like 60-some views already, and it's still unlisted.
When I checked out at like 10 o'clock this morning, it was like 66.
So. And it's still unlisted. I mean, nobody, it's only people we've sent it to.
How many times did you watch it, Jerry? No.
Once. I watched it once. Well, I wanted to see what we had to edit out, and then I was like, oh, this is gold, man. I like it. I'm just going to run with it. And some people we throw around the F-bomb. We make jokes that are maybe a little, I don't know, I'm not going to say vulgar, but they're not kosher, exactly. Yeah. But, that's who we are. We're people. And this isn't going to appeal to everybody.
Yep.
It's not. And if we lose some viewers over that, we probably will. But I think for the most part, people understand this is conversational. I'm not going to put on a face to come do this.
Yeah.
If we're going to do this, it's going to be you. It's going to be me. It's right.
I'm wearing a camel sweatshirt, and I could have got all pretty, and we could have had a script. This paper's a blank. There's nothing on there, just in case I need to take some notes. I get a random thought. I want to write it down. I like it though.
Yeah,
we're regular guys.
Yep. I had lunch with Todd Hansen. He's going to be doing next week. He's going to record. I think it's Tuesday or Wednesday. He's recording. He's an inventor. Invented compass carts.
That's right. Yep.
Super guy, really smart, knowledgeable on so many different things, and then just a good person besides. There's no arrogance. He's been through a lot. He's a very humble guy. So I think everybody's going to enjoy him. He's a great guy, and he's got a really unique perspective on small business because he comes from the corporate world. Still there, as a matter of fact, works for a good-sized bank, a huge bank, but he spent a fair amount of money, invented this cart that you can pull behind your bike, you can mount it on your car. I'll let him talk about it, but point is he went from a problem, a need, he created a solution, he invented it. He tried to have it made in the U.S. He had some made overseas. He has an investor now that's a big guy. I mean, as far as a big deal, he's got real money.
God, that's so cool.
Yeah, and now whether or not he gets involved, we don't know. Again, he had a chance to be on a television show, a Shark Tank type show, and then the pilot went out, and then the show got canceled, so he was chosen to be on there, but he didn't get there. So I mean, he's got a lot of cool stuff going on, but he's got a very unique perspective from where most of us, I have a few businesses, but I buy stuff and resell it. We buy stuff and have somebody put it in your house, right? Garage doors. We buy garage doors, we put them in. We buy rollers, we put them in. We go in and fix what's there. It's service and product based. We buy an alternator at the auto shop and we put it in. I mean, so we're not doing anything that hasn't been done before. We're not paving a way like he is. So that's pretty cool. So I think, but we had lunch yesterday and he'd listened to the podcast. And that's what he wanted to talk about was the podcast. He was really excited about it. He said, I can really see this going somewhere. And you just see the fire in his eyes. And I
agree, man. I
agree.
It's
like, that was cool. So he's like, we got to figure out how to get this marketed. And of course the first one's pretty raw. It starts in the middle of a sentence.
But it was good.
Yeah, I liked it.
It was good. It's rough. I mean, it's going to be a work in progress. But I think what everybody's going to get from this podcast is there's always going to be something relatable. You spend the time and watch it, and as we get a variety of guests, and
right.
There's always going to be something it's gonna click and be like, wow.
Well, I mean, I really enjoy the Joe Rogan experience, right? I mean, I think a lot of people do. I mean, obviously, he's the king of podcast. The hard part with a lot of his guests are, though, when you look at the really famous people like Joe Rogan himself, they're not regular people. Pardon me. They're not you and I. I think that some of them are awfully real when they're on there. But a lot of those guys they're so out there. I mean, they've got so much money, they got so much fame. They can't go to the mall and just wander around, without getting mobbed. So it's cool to just have our neighbors, come in and then it's if you're from Southern Minnesota, you've probably been in a lot. As we get going here, you're gonna have been in a lot of the stores or the salons or compass carts. You're gonna have bought a cart at some point. They're be ready for sale next month. So I mean, he's got a handful of stores. He's going to go into my gun shop. We're talking about putting one in there as a display to show people, and he's got these little video iPad type kiosk things that he's talking about doing. So we'll see. But I think that it's a neat process. It'll be a unique experience with Todd. So I think with him, we're just going to do a one-on-one where, like I say, Monday we've got 3 ladies coming in. They all own businesses right here in Stewartville. So yeah, I think that's going to be exciting.
That's going to be a good one to watch.
Yeah, I really do. I know Michelle said she's worried about. She does flowers, so she's worried about like if a wedding or a funeral comes around. You don't really schedule. Well, the wedding's just scheduled, but the funeral's not so much. So she's hoping to be here. But
she works so hard.
She does.
Gosh, I love popping in there every so often. If I'm ever like in that area, if I stop at like High Octane or whatever, I'll pop in there and just at least give her 5 minutes. Yeah. Take her away from what she's doing, but I know I gotta go because she's got so many things popping there, and it's really cool to see how much she's growing too. So But
yeah. She's got so many products. It's not just flowers.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much stuff in there. So, yeah, I'm excited. I'm hoping that and then I look at Danielle. Look what she's done from running. She used to live just down the street from us. 10 houses or something, and had her little kennels in the back porch, and then a couple in the garage, and they'd run around her backyard. And Art Jordan, our lab, she'd jump the fence and come home. Because she's only 10 doors down. So she'd get wild hair and jump the fence, and then she'd come and jump our fence and come right back in our backyard. So then I'd be looking outside and like, Jordan's here. And then here, because we're getting ready to go to the camp, or we're getting ready for vacation, or wherever they were at, whatever reason they were at the kennel. And here comes Danielle walking the back way, and she just waves at me in the window and grabs Jordan. But now you look at the new house they built. I mean, she's got such a facility.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Well, you were just out there doing some house washing, weren't you?
Yes, I did. Yes. Yep. Did some washing there, and it's kind of funny because I was out there. Gosh, it's probably almost been 2 years ago when they first built that house. They wanted me to do some washing. At the time, they were just getting reestablished, the business and everything. So it was like, not a big deal. But go back out there, and just the progression from when I was out there the first time until now, it's amazing what she's doing. And then all the things that she's implementing at the daycare too for the dogs, and enrichment and everything else. It's just it's really cool to see everybody grow. Yeah. That's the biggest thing. And I think another thing you can take away from this podcast is you're going to learn a lot, and there's a lot of resources here. You could ask anybody on these podcasts for help. Right. Dang near, and that's the nice thing about being in this small town. And
well, Heather and I talked about this the other day. I said, I've been working, I'm 52. I mentioned that before, but, I've been building this network unknowingly, right, for the last 30 years at least, but that's, that's something that we talked about was, if we have a question, there's always, okay, so I spend most of my day working at the auto shop. That's where I put my time in. And just the other day, I had a good customer of mine. She calls me, and she's kind of giggling when I answer the phone. She's like, "Jerry, how are you?" I'm like, "Good. How are you doing?" And she's like, and she tells me, she's like, "I know who you are." She goes, kind of laughed about it, recognize the voice kind of thing. Just been coming there forever. And she's like, I have an odd one today. It's not a car question. I'm like, "Okay, yeah, what do you got going on?" She goes, "Do you have a plumber that you know and trust?" And I was like, "You know what?" So I put her out to Mark Nelson at Service Pros Plumbing, right? He's a friend of mine, and he's very good at what he does. He's honest. Yep. Yeah. Do you know Mark?
Yep. Okay. Actually, Vince, one of his employees, was in our B&I group.
Oh, okay.
So then, yeah. So
great guy, great company. Small business again.
Yep.
So I'm hoping to have him on here at some point. I think I'm hoping he'll be interested. But anyways, I said that, and she goes, I knew you'd have somebody, and I know if you're using them, they're good. And I was like, I felt so happy, when I hung up the phone, because it's like, running an auto shop, she brings me her car to be fixed, and and I get those calls all the time, of just
messages,
just things that aren't related to our business at all, but we've taken the time. We really care about our customers. You wish you could take care of all their problems and make it affordable, and it's not always. Bottom line, sometimes I just give out ridiculous estimates because that's what's wrong, and that's it stinks. Especially now when you look at the car market, it's so crazy. It's to go buy something different. It's a lot bigger decision than it was 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And now the UAW strike, that's not going to help. It's going to make things worse. And we've got an election year coming up, so we'll probably have COVID-19 2.0, whatever is coming.
Gosh.
So we'll have to mask up or whatever, and sell cars for more money. What it's really about, get the money out there. That's what we're after. So. But yeah, it's just you put that all together, and it's heartbreaking sometimes, when you look at what things cost and you look at the inflation. It's this just record-breaking inflation we're dealing with right now.
Groceries are insane.
It's
wild.
It's awful. And again, we're back to that whole people on the right say, it's today's problem. People on the left say it's from 4 years ago. It's like, does it matter? I don't want to pay it. Right?
We can't control that at all.
No, I can't control that, and I don't want to charge it. We all like you said, groceries, right? We're all bitching about what we have to pay. I don't want to charge that. Do you know? When I look at the cost of a brake job, my cost of a brake job's gone up like 35% over the last 3 years. I'm not making a dime more than I was before. Matter of fact, you could say I'm making less because on percentage. My percentage is less. I'm still making the same dollar amount, but I'm charging 30% more to get there. And if I kept trying to keep my margins where I had them before, it's crazy. It's just crazy numbers. I can't do that to people. And, and like I say, the price increases, your hand is forced. I mean, you can't, when prices go up on my end, I have to raise them to the customer.
You have to. There's no choice about it, And I've heard of some people trying to maintain. We thought this was going to be a short-term thing, which is, everything goes up and down, but they're hurting now.
Yeah.
They wish they would have bumped it up sooner.
Yeah. Restaurant owners, good
progressively.
Friends. Yeah,
progressively.
Yep. Here in town, and this was 3 years ago. I mean, it was COVID time, and they were saying how they like it when people order the burgers versus their chicken, because chicken has gone up so much, we're not making any money on the chicken dishes because they didn't raise their prices. And they hoping it would just be an ebb and flow. We're at a high point, it's going to come back down. Well, where are we at? It's like, raise your prices. I mean, you can't hope that somebody orders something profitable. You know what I mean? You can't just go, well, let's not order the chicken. There's not much money in that today. Well, there's got to be. And unfortunately, I mean, have you been to KFC lately?
No.
Go through KFC. We had friends over. Matter of fact, they did a podcast. Mike and Chamber came and did a podcast episode already for Con-Ag Trucking. Great people. I mean, I love those guys. But they stopped at KFC and brought dinner for us because Heather just had her knee replaced. It's like, we'll bring dinner. We'll cook. They were kind of joking, and they brought us a French silk pie and this big, couple buckets from. It was like over $100 for 4 of us. To go to KFC for a couple buckets and then a pie, but they brought a bunch of fixins. I mean, they brought enough food for more than 4 of us. There's no question, But the point being, it's like KFC. It's good, but it's still fast food.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you go to McDonald's. There's no dollar menus anymore.
No,
that's a thing of the past. There's no. Yeah. Me
and my dad were just talking about that too. He's like, these burgers were getting smaller, and it's like, well, I think McDonald's had to not only raise their prices but also reduce their portions. Yeah. Because there's no way they can double the price on I go in and get a Big Mac. I can't, maybe before I was paying $5.50, I'm not going to pay $10 for a Big Mac.
Right.
So it's all just
trying
to make it work.
Yeah, try to make it work. That's right. And, and then the other side of it, we've got Taco Bell right across the street from my auto shop. Mm-hmm. They've got their big sign up. They're starting at $15-$16 an hour for starting pay, and it's like to flip, to make tacos, I mean, tacos are wonderful, but
still,
But still.
Let's go there. My first real job was Fleet Farm. I was 16. Obviously, I worked on the farm for a long time, since as soon as I could walk, and I didn't get any pay. Not better, but I had a roof over my head, and I learned a lot. But that started out at $7.70, and I felt like a king because minimum wage at the time was $7.25. So I'm, just got my driver's license. I'm making a little bit more than minimum wage, but.
So when I was 16, I had a job at Kmart, right? $3.65 an hour. And you got paid every Friday, and you'd go in the back, and Ann was the HR manager, and she had a little tiny office with no windows that I would have been claustrophobic in. She was the sweetest lady, and you would go back on Friday, they'd make an announcement that paychecks were ready, and you'd go back and you got a paper envelope with a pay stub in it and cash.
Really?
Yeah, and this is every employee. I mean, if you were me, part-time young kid making $3.65 an hour, and your paycheck was $48, you got 2 20s, a 5, 3 1s, and some change.
Paid in cash. Wow.
Cash but they paid everybody in cash. And I don't know how the back office worked back then, but yeah, that of course, that was my first real job. I didn't know any different. I'm just like, all right, but it's like, wait a minute, I earned like $80 and I got a check for like $52. What happened here? I remember the first time, just mind-blowing taxes. It's like, what? I pay taxes. When I buy something for $1, I have to pay like $1. Back then it was probably $1.03 or 4 cents for it. The sales guy's like, no, I pay taxes. No, I already did that. No, you owe me $80. No, we don't. We owe you $52.
No.
And you think about that when we sit in, especially as a young person, you bitch about the taxes they take out. Well, remember, that employer, he's matching your taxes besides. So that $80 paycheck that you're only getting $52 for, it costs the business more than $80.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, you do the math on that, and it's like, wow, this. When I was a kid, it was crazy. And then you got your employer would sit down and go, we pay more than $80. We have to double those taxes. We match that, and yeah, so it's a real eye opener when you start working. But yeah, Kmart used to pay, and again, I was 16, so I was born in 71, so that was 1987, but they paid in cash, and every employee just go back there, and we
Weird.
no armed guards, no, we didn't have any big security system. You just had locks on the doors. I mean, but yeah, that was crazy back then. Now I look back at it going to pay in cash, especially there. That's a big store. Back.
That's a big chain. Yeah.
Well, yeah,
big box store.
Yeah, big box store. So it was all corporate, but also how many employees were at Kmart back then? I mean, there had to be. I guess anybody listening that. You could throw me a note and let me know.
Yeah, put it in the comments.
There had to be, I would guess, 150, 200 employees in that store, would be my guess, because they're open 7 days a week. And 9 in the morning till 9 at night? I think we were open till 8 in the morning till 9 at night, something like that. So, I mean, that's a lot of part-time help, but there's plenty of full-timers in there too. But yeah, everybody, even the full-timers, everybody got paid in cash. I was like, weird. Just crazy. Yeah, you couldn't do that today.
No,
couldn't do it. No way. But, so... Before we go, we're gonna do a podcast. We're at 50 minutes.
Cool.
Our goal here has always been 30 to 45, and
yep.
Craig and I failed miserably at that. You and I were not far behind.
Hey, podcast was still a success, though. It was worth it. Totally worth going over. But anyways.
So we're going to do a podcast about you and your business here coming up soon. But just give us a quick preview. What's your business now? What are you doing now?
It's exterior cleaning solutions. So I like to label myself as the wash guy, your wash guy. A lot of the work that I do, of course, is residential work. It's soft washing, power washing, window cleaning, gutter cleaning. Wintertime, I do ice dam steaming. So basically, I get hired to come in and make everything look fresh and as new as possible, and I save you your weekend of pressure washing and probably nagging from your wife. So it's a win-win-win-win.
It is. And you do a great job. You've done our house, and fantastic job.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but so we'll do an actual podcast episode on your business
cool.
coming up here, not too far off. But anyways, guys, I wanted to introduce you to Keenan, because he's going to be helping with. He's going to be a recurring guest like Craig. And also co-hosting and possibly hosting. We've kind of talked about that. We'll see kind of how it goes forward here. But yeah, I'm hoping to get. Right now, I have a 10-channel soundboard for this podcast, and we have 4 microphones, booms, headsets. I'd like to go a little further than that. I'm thinking we might want to move to 6. We've got room in here for more people. I don't know how to do it, to be honest. That's something we've got to. That's our next.
Figure it out.
Yep, that's our next.
We got this figured out.
Yep, we got this figured out.
We sat down in an afternoon and we got this whole sound editing thing.
Yep.
And
yeah, this room sounds amazing.
Fun.
I mean, not to pat ourselves on the back, but this
it turned out cool.
I'm really happy with it. Yep. Considering we're just in my house, so I had another. He's going to be doing a podcast here. The Tuesday before Thanksgiving, I've got them scheduled. Pat Eckert and Harlan Hansen. He owns Eckert Construction. Harlan owns Cap's Kitchen and Bath. They're going to be coming in. But again, another, can I rent out your podcast studio?
Yeah.
No, it's in my house. So I'm going to have to come up with something for that. We'll have to address. Obviously, it's an issue because he's like the 4th person that's asked me, and not that many people really know about it yet. So out of a pretty short list, we've had 4 people asked to rent out the studio. So excuse me. I guess that's something we're going to have to figure out at some point.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're just figuring it all out.
Yeah.
Figure it out, man.
Figure it out, man. That's it. Yep. Figure it out. Cool. Well, everybody have a great night or day or afternoon, whenever you're watching this, listening to this. And yeah, hopefully by the time this gets aired, we'll be on YouTube for sure, Spotify, and hopefully a few others by then. We'll see how it goes. But Keenan, thanks again for coming out. And whoever is watching this, and if you're a small business owner and this was interesting, if you're a wannabe small business owner where you're ready to make the plunge, but you want to make the plunge, you're just not ready yet, refer this out to your friends. Let them know. I'd like to grow this podcast. I'd like to have you on. Let's talk about that too. So, share it with your friends, and we'll see you next time. Everybody have a great night.
See y'all soon.